What do you think was the worst loss for the University of Alabama in college football in this century, 2000 to 2021? I'm going to show clips from what I think is the worst game. Really quick though, I'm not talking about 2003 with Northern Illinois. That was pretty bad. I'm also not talking about Louisiana-Monroe in 2007. That was under Nick Saban. It was a bad loss, but it was his first season, and he did okay after that, I'm pretty sure. I'm also not talking about 1999, the loss to Louisiana Tech. Ended up somehow winning the SEC title that year. I don't know how that happened. I'm talking about 2000 to 2021. The worst loss, I think, was September 16th, 2000. Alabama hosted Southern Mississippi. And I was there with my dad and my brother. I remember we got haircuts earlier that day, and we thought, this is Southern Mississippi. We're going to do okay. We're Alabama, right? We stayed until the very end of the game in complete disbelief at the score. And that final score was, at Alabama, that final score was 21-0. A shutout at home. Things did not get off to a great start in the first quarter.
Southern Miss will show almost a different defensive front every single play. They come after Watson, second for a loss of 5. First man there is Cedric Scott.
And a few minutes later,
that's why you're seeing misdirection. Off sweep, Arvin Richard with the throwback, and it's intercepted. Southern Miss will get a touchdown. Raymond Walls, 54 yards. Alabama tries to get exotic, and it blows up in their face.
Then after Alabama basically did nothing, Southern Mississippi drove down the field for another touchdown.
Eric Nix, dangerous either way, running it or as a target out of the backfield. First down catch, Sean Mills inside the Alabama 35-yard line, a gain of 22. Southern Miss now second and goal, trying to add to that first score. Kelly to the corner of the end zone, uncovered. Leroy Handy, 13-0, Golden Eagles. Kelly took a lick on his knee in the first quarter.
So at this point, we're thinking, okay, we're Alabama. They're going to find a way to win, right? I mean, this is Southern Mississippi, right? This is Alabama. We're going to be okay.
Southern Miss, which makes a habit of scaring the big-time opponents on the road, doing it again, 14-0 at Alabama. And the Tide cough up the kickoff, returned by Southern Miss inside the 5 and all the way for a touchdown. Southern Miss scores Joe Henley. A 19-yard return of a fumble kickoff.
So not only did Alabama lose 21-0, but no more points were scored after the very beginning of the second quarter. Talk about a boring rest of the game. By the third quarter, things were not getting better.
Tony Dixon got the block. And Lewis's return ends on that hard hit by Hanna. Bad option pitch. Southern Miss gets the recovery. Cedric Scott makes another huge play. There's a dead ball foul for the celebration.
Nor was Southern Mississippi making anything easier.
Back to you, Dave.
Well, he also showed he can scramble just a little bit. He hit Danny Fowler in his hands, but he couldn't bring it in. Now they're coming after Mark Hallman, one of his better efforts. And it is down inside the 1. Can't get any better than that.
And yes, that is someone familiar on the sideline you see there. That is Dabo Swinney. He is the coach of the Clemson Tigers as we know him today. However, he did go to the University of Alabama as a student, played on the football team, and was an assistant coach in the year 2000. Then at the beginning of the fourth quarter, the backup quarterback came in for Alabama, Andrew Zhao, and he began throwing some solid passes. But there were some throws that weren't so great.
Zhao is the superior passer, Watt's the superior runner.
With more experience, a junior, Watts just a sophomore. That's intended for Millens, and breaking almost in time to get the pick was Keon Moore. On 2nd and 10, that one twice is almost picked off.
So at this point, we weren't feeling hopeful compared to earlier whenever it was 21-0 at the beginning of the second quarter.
From their own 46. Nearly 11 minutes to go. Going for it on 4th and 10 is Zhao, and he may keep it. Pulls up, fires another near interception, the 3rd on this series.
So at this point, Alabama needs 3 scores to tie, and it's not looking good, obviously. The ESPN crew flashed up a schedule for the rest of the season, and Alabama would only end up winning 2 of the games you see here, and those were against, can you guess? South Carolina and Ole Miss, which were not the best teams in the SEC by any stretch of the imagination at this point. They were, I think, if I can remember correctly, expected wins, although Southern Mississippi was also an expected win, so who knows. Alabama would lose the rest of the games you see here other than South Carolina and Ole Miss, including a 9-0 shutout loss to Auburn to end the season. According to the stats I found, Andrew Zhao ended up throwing an interception later in the 4th quarter, but I couldn't find the highlight on YouTube. Anyway, it was a pretty terrible game to drive to, considering we lived several hours away at the time. And all that I remember was feeling such a sense of disappointment at opening the season 1-2, I think. And if I remember correctly, Alabama would end up losing 8 games that season, going 3-8, which would end up being the worst season for Alabama of the past several decades. And it was pretty rough. Losing at home to a team you're not supposed to lose to and losing in a shutout. I don't know if I'll ever see that again in my life for Alabama football. Hopefully not, as an Alabama fan. If you're not an Alabama fan, you probably hope that there are a lot of losses coming Alabama's way, because Alabama has had a lot of good fortune over the last several years. More national titles than any other team this century. And Nick Saban is kind of legendary already. I mean, how many national titles is he going to win before he's done? It's pretty amazing. So this is what I think was the worst Alabama college football game of this century. I don't know about all time. I'm sure there was some game in the early 1900s that I don't know about. Something like that, maybe in the mid-1900s, 1950s, 60s, that I just don't know because I've never researched all the games from history. But this one was pretty bad. September 2000 against Southern Mississippi. 21-0 shutout loss at home. And, you know, hopefully, as an Alabama fan, I don't see anything like that for the rest of my life. But we'll see. I hope you like this video, and I'll see you in the next one.
And what you want to do is that who's trying to win the game here? Let's just look at this tape and see who's trying to win the game. And with the kind of pride these players have, I'm sure they will rally.
Good heavens, they fumbled the snap in the victory position. You know, something else to consider, if a 2-point conversion is called correctly 2 weeks ago at Knoxville, that makes it 19-11, and Jeff Bower's team is driving at the end to try and tie it up. I mean, that call goes their way, and it certainly should have. They're looking at a 2-0 start with wins at Tennessee and at Alabama.
Well, see, even Mama's happy if you can pull these things off. Yes, and you're right, Dave. They could have beaten 2 SEC teams, but I think they'll take what they got right now and go home happy.
They knock off a giant. Number 13, Alabama shutout, 21-0. And look out for Southern Miss the rest of the way. College football scoreboard coming up next. For Mike Golick, Bill Curry, and Holly Rowe, along with our entire ESPN crew, Dave Barnett, so long from Birmingham, Alabama, where Southern Miss pulls off one of the biggest prizes of the weekend.